Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Clay, and I'm with JBS International. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Addressing Workforce Needs on Retention and Recruitment, a Learning Collaborative. Before we begin, I'd like to review some housekeeping items. Due to the high number of participants on this call, all participant lines will be muted for the duration of this webinar session. If you have any comments or questions, please submit them at any time by using the Q&A feature. To open your Q&A window, please click on the Q&A icon located in the bottom center of your Zoom window. Closed captioning is also available. You can view the captions in your browser by clicking on the AI media link located in the chat. Or depending on your screen size, you can go to the ellipses at the bottom of the screen below More to show captions and change their size. Or you can use the caret beside the closed caption notation located at the bottom of your screen. If you experience any technical issues during this webinar, please message us using the chat feature, which is located at the bottom center of your screen, or you can email us at samhsa.jbsinternational.com. Lastly, this is a recorded event, and your participation grants consent to be recorded. The recorded webinar and PowerPoint slides will be available and sent to participants at a later date. Next slide. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the Center for Mental Health Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Next slide, please. At this time, I will turn to Thiessen Thomas, who will provide this afternoon's welcome. Thiessen is the Deputy Director for the Center of Mental Health Services at SAMHSA and has played a key role in the implementation of the Workforce Learning Collaborative. Thiessen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Matt, and good afternoon and welcome to all of you. I'm so glad to meet all of you again. I had the opportunity to meet all of you in the beginning of the Learning Collaborative, so it's such a nice opportunity for me to meet all of you again. Addressing workforce needs on retention and recruitment webinar sponsored by SAMHSA. Before we delve into today's presentation, I'd like to offer a few comments to set the stage for our discussions for the rest of the day. So today's webinar marks the culmination of the 6 sessions Learning Collaborative series undertaken by the following states: Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Rhode Island, and Washington. So let me extend my heartfelt congratulations to these states for their dedicated participation in this collaborative. Your commitment to enhancing workforce retention and recruitment in the behavioral health field is commendable. All of the states who participated applied and were chosen to participate in the collaborative last spring. Regrettably, we had only 8 states or 8 spots available for the states. So not every state that applied was able to join. So the Workforce Learning Collaborative was held as part of the state TA contract, which is funded by SAMHSA, to support states in implementing mental health services as well as disseminating evidence-based practices. So we are very excited to share that there will be additional learning collaborative opportunities for the states in the future, and we will provide more details on that when it becomes available. The Workforce Learning Collaborative kicked off with an in-person session at SAMHSA headquarters in Rockville, Maryland in June. And I'm so glad I was able to be there at that time. And subsequent sessions were conducted virtually, concluding in July. So each session featured a national subject matter expert and who presented on strategies and approaches for supporting today's workforce. Breakout sessions for the Learning Collaborative participants to engage with one another, and activities to reinforce learning. So topics covered during these sessions included building a representative workforce, supporting and enhancing peer specialists and recovery coaches, and creative methods for recruiting, hiring, among others. The purpose of today's session is basically to ensure that the insights and the lessons learned from the collaborative are shared with a broader audience. So throughout today's presentation, several state participants will share their takeaways through state spotlights. And as you listen to these spotlights, I encourage you to contemplate on how these lessons could be applied in your own state. As a companion to this webinar or this session, we will develop, like Matt said, in a brief resource document summarizing the common theme and lessons learned from the Learning Collaborative. This document will be released in the coming weeks. SAMHSA is also committed to supporting our partners in the states and jurisdiction as they work tirelessly to meet behavioral health needs for their communities. The learning collaboratives are just one way in which states can leverage the support. You can also request individualized TA, both on and off-site, directly through the state TA contract, which Matt will elaborate a little bit later. Alternatively, you could always reach out to your government project officer with any questions. So before I hand back to Matt to kickstart the session, I want to express my heartfelt congratulations once again to the states and territories that participated in this collaborative. SAMHSA recognizes and deeply appreciate your dedication in improving your mental health systems. Your hard work is making a meaningful difference, and we thank you for your unwavering commitment. With that, let's begin the session and continue our journey of knowledge sharing and collaboration. Thank you for joining us. Back to you, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Thiessen. I now turn it to Jim Sacco to get the webinar started. Jim is a consultant with JBS International and was the facilitator for this year's Learning Collaborative. Jim?
All right, Matthew. Thank you. Thiessen, thanks very much. I'm going to, in like 8 minutes, give you a summary of about probably 12 instructional hours. So I'm going to really kind of quickly talk about the highlights. Within 36 hours, you'll have a copy of these slides. And as everybody has said, there's a resource document that sums up. These were the objectives for our collaborative. Basically, what happened is in polling grantees, it was really clear that there's an enormous need, and the problems, people solving the problems on their own has been challenging. So we brought eight states, two people per team together to come up with solutions. The first meeting, as Thiessen said, was there in Maryland. And we sort of started with a SWOT analysis. People brought some findings from their states. This won't be surprising to most of you on the call. As COVID happened, need got higher, retention got worse, staff burnout. So the combination, the perfect storm of COVID, overwork, acuity, patient acuity came into being. So things that people came up with in their SWOT analysis. Again, funding challenges with consistent funding, how to get people on a career path that will be representative, and how to pay people competitive wages. One of the things that came really clearly was state governments just were not keeping up with the private sector, and people had been losing people. So as part of that kickoff, speakers from SAMHSA, external consultants came in and talked about the importance of building a workforce that looks like the patients that we're serving. This slide talks about disparities and what happens when the behavioral health workforce doesn't look like people. Here's a snapshot of what the workforce looked like. Again, 2021, but it's probably not that same. The Annapolis Coalition just talked about COVID as an opportunity. We included this as part of the slide deck for that first meeting, just thinking that while COVID certainly has held up the behavioral health system and its challenges, it also, I think, shows the opportunities. So what happens when you do get a workforce that matches who's there? These are, again, not surprising. These are the benefits of having a more diverse workplace. Our first virtual session was about the role of peers. And anytime SAMHSA's talking about peers, the issues of recovery and building resilience are part of that. The consultant talked about the dimensions of recovery and gave us a definition of resilience. She talked about valuable services, and I think both times we've had learning collaboratives around peers, we've been challenged to think about expanding the roles peers might play. Obviously, there are appropriate scopes of work, but I think with training and support, and most importantly, with good supervision, her idea was that the certified peer recovery coaches not only brought empathy, but also brought some real ability to extend treatment to places that we don't typically see treatment happening. I guess the other thing that, again, for the other takeaway that was really important was the acute need for supervision. And I've done enough peer counselor training to recognize that empathy of shared lived experience is a two-edged sword. And if we're not really mindful in supporting, teaching good self-care, the potential for burnout and other problems for peers is significant. We had a wonderful speaker in our third session from the Council on Social Work Education, really talked to us about early career professionals. Again, nothing new in some ways, but she talked about what students could do. What also was important is the use of incentives, and the idea, again, big note, not all these are permitted with mental health block grant dollars, but really the message, and I suspect people are finding this, is instead of viewing students as free labor, obviously students need to get the practicum hours, professional counselors, nurse practitioners, physicians, everybody needs, as part of their schooling, their post-secondary schooling, to get practice hours. But this movement towards payment for placement, movement away from, oh, this is a free source of labor, and really thinking about incentivizing those students. And the win-win, as she painted a picture, was incentivizing students on the front end so they get what they need in terms of their training, and with incentives and encouragement, they're bought in to create a pathway to stay engaged in your system. So again, more work on self-care. Good folks at AHP, Advocates for Human Potential, came and talked about building a resilient workforce. And part of the work, we were clear in this conversation, can't just be about hiring the right people and getting peers and students, but it really has to be about treating the workforce well that you have. And so some really interesting ideas about how much burnout people are experiencing, some really important information on what a effective organizational culture does to counteract that, and what good managers can do to overcome that. So as I said, that was just a real quick highlight of where we were. I think the richest thing that happened was these states coming together to share their experience, strength, and hope, to coin a phrase, but also to learn and grow from one another. So our what we wanted to do now is just kind of step back. 3 of the states that were participants are going to step in and sort of share their takeaways and lessons learned. Erica Vandewaal and Jongbei Kim participated from New York State. And Eric, I think you're going to kick off and talk about your experience. Is that correct?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Vandewaal. I work for the New York State Office of Mental Health, and I'm the director of our planning office here at OMH. And I thought that this learning collaborative was absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to start just with a few key takeaways from the collaborative. And first of all, it was really just figuring figuring out and just being faced with the fact that we can figure out how to address our workforce challenges together. When we gathered in person, all the participants, when we gathered, it really was clear to me, like the energy amongst the members of this collaborative was truly palpable, which like underscored for me, like New York, we're not just struggling this by ourselves. The workforce challenges are real for all of us. We know we have to figure out solutions together, and that we can do it together. So that was just like my biggest takeaway of all. And then as we started to drill down, I really realized that we in here in New York, and many of us, we really need a comprehensive strategy, a specific plan that incorporates all the different pieces and opportunities, both short-term and long-term goals that are really trackable, as well as sources of information that allow us to measure our progress and outcomes. Another key takeaway I found was that even like a focus on wellness, like employee wellness development and appreciating your employees, it's not just a nice thing to do and a good thing to do. It's actually an essential component of workforce retention. And it helps me sell those activities to our leadership to be like, no, this is retention. This is about retention, and people will listen up. And then it really occurred to us that expert marketing and communication will really have, that field has a great opportunity to help us for recruitment. We really realized we need to have defined career pathways in mental health. And in New York, some of our substance use services have this, or addiction services have this, but in our mental health services, we need defined career paths at all different levels of education, as well as an increased awareness in the community about the different job opportunities that the mental health workforce has to offer. And then I realized we need to build relationships and form collaborative networks with high schools, vocational schools, colleges, and universities to support these pathways from education to and training spaces to real job openings. We also realized we could provide training and technical assistance to our community providers on effective modern strategies for retention and local recruitment. And then we really realized that there were practical solutions that can be implemented in the short term to remove barriers to recruitment, like simple things like making a job description more attractive and approachable, or making thoughtful adjustments to our regulations that we control here in the state in terms of a program model and staffing requirements in a program model. Like, what do we have control over that we could change easily to help address the workforce shortage? So those were my main key takeaways from New York. And then in the next slide, I'm most impactful of all the sessions that we did. I had to pick two. So these were the two most impactful sessions I found. First was the SWOT analysis. In our very first in-person session, when each group shared, we like laid out on poster board in a room together in terms of workforce efforts in our state. What are our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And then we went around the room and kind of did show and tell with each other. That was so impactful to me, just having real open conversations about what each state was doing. And that just made Zhang Bei, my colleague, and I, who was there, made us really realize and get a ton of ideas, like the technical assistance methodology from Ohio, the marketing campaign strategies from Washington, hitching workforce marketing onto our 988 marketing idea from Georgia, and then infusing behavioral health education into college curriculums, that idea from Nevada. So just brainstorming together was like really energizing, but also gave us some concrete stuff we could do. My other most impactful session was the one about creative methods for recruiting and hiring. We had that expert consultation from Dr. Tina Chasek, where really, they pointed out a couple of key things that stuck with me, like knowledge in economics and marketing should be pulled in, that academic institutions are already experts that need to be utilized for workforce recruitment, that we could provide high school teachers with curriculum on mental health education and on job opportunities maybe. that there are information materials for students that can help them like really visually understand the multiple different career ladders for each position in the mental health field, like going into it, how you know, as a new student in this field might not really realize all of the different job opportunities there are, so that you can see what's out there. And then I also loved their idea of being able to create a centralized location online for students and recent graduates to be able to go to post their resumes, or be able to get like a consolidated place where all the different job links can be posted. In the next slide, I'm going to talk about applying what we learned to our workforce efforts here in New York State. So a couple of examples of how we're applying what we learned. So the New York State Office of Mental Health, we're currently creating a community workforce development unit within my office, the planning office, to develop and implement this comprehensive strategic plan, because we have different elements throughout the state, not just in Office of Mental Health, but in other state agencies, and then within our agency too. Good things that are happening, but we need to like kind of pull it all together and make real measurable goals to pull that together. So we need to do that. And I just hired my director, who's starting in a few weeks, of that community workforce development unit. So I'm so excited. We're also in New York proposing to design a fellowship program where students or recent graduates could be appointed to an appropriate fellowship track, depending on their experience or their education level. And then they could also learn skills in communication and networking, and then get opportunities for job matching, ideally within their own local community. And then we're also aiming to build relationships with schools, including high schools, BOCES programs, community colleges, and universities, so that we can really have an organized presence by OMH in all their job-related events. We plan to disseminate best practices for recruitment and retention to our community providers. Many of them are doing this work already, but for the providers that really need our help on how to do really good recruitment and retention activities, we want to pull all those resources together and provide technical assistance similar to what other states are doing. And then last but not least, I've been huge since this collaborative on contemplating marketing strategies that we can use to enhance. So like we can work with our public information office or other types of communications techniques. And then in my last slide, you know, we were asked to think about what are some of the challenges we've been facing and how we can overcome. And then honestly, I think probably many people resonate this. For me, it's been all the competing priorities. We're really lucky right now in New York at the Office of Mental Health. We have a historic budget to expand mental health services, and the biggest challenge that we have is workforce. But while we're trying to roll out all these different initiatives, being able to focus in on addressing the workforce challenge, you know, sometimes was hard, but our leaders really want us to focus in on it, and I think our new unit is going to help with that. The other is coordination of multiple initiatives has also been a challenge we've had to overcome, which I mentioned, like all the different efforts that are already happening, you get that coordinated and get it evaluated. Collaboration for New York State, other agencies in New York have their own strategic plans or initiatives around workforce, like even Office of People with Developmental Disabilities has a really robust workforce strategy. So we want to make sure that we're being complementary to that and efficient at the same time. The paraprofessional was a challenge for us. So we're a little behind other states in the paraprofessional role in mental health. We had a qualified mental health associate proposed in our last budget cycle last year that did not go through. So that was challenging, and we're going to continue to work on that design and try to figure out what were the barriers there. And I think stigma is definitely a challenge that we all have to address and is related to workforce. When you think about, you know, what field should I go in? People choosing their careers, sometimes that plays a role. Stigma towards the field or towards the individuals we serve that I think will be beneficial to address. Then last but not least is salary is definitely a challenge to overcome. Like all of our qualitative data tells us that salaries are one of the #1 drivers that, you know, makes our field maybe less attractive in some cases because it's, you know, it is hard work. So I loved the collaborative, and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Jungbae Kim from New York, to talk about for a couple minutes on branding and marketing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jungbae Kim. So I'm a mental health program specialist at the New York State Office of Mental Health. I'm glad to share the importance of branding and marketing for the mental health workforce. Let's get started. As our society has been the multicultural and individuals in need of mental health services have been various. We think that it has been getting more critical to ensuring that the diversity, equity, and inclusion be included in the process of workforce recruitment and retention. In this process, we think it would be very important to understanding a concept of branding and marketing. According to the definition from Cambridge Dictionary, branding is the act of making a product, organization, person, or place easy to recognize as different from others by connecting it with a particular name, design, symbol, or set of qualities. And the marketing is the business activity that involves finding out what customers want and using that information to design products and the services and selling them effectively. As it described in the definition of branding and marketing, we think it would be very essential to developing unique branding strategies to sell unique products that customers would be attracted to them and want to buy them. After having unique product developed, we think it would be very critical to developing and implementing unique marketing strategies to have customers be aware of those unique products available in the market. So for example, in car sales, each car company developed their own unique brand strategies to target unique or various customers and sell different types of cars with various convenient functions and designs that customers would be attracted to and they want to buy a car that they like. As in sales, we think branding and marketing techniques can be applied to recruitment efforts to increase the mental health workforce. We want to develop unique branding and marketing strategies that attract job seekers to our field, including prospective students choosing a field of study and graduate figuring out what to specialize in and where they should work. And individuals who left the mental health field in the past and may be open to returning. People drawn to the mental health field tend to be helpers or people with a personal connection to mental health. So when developing a branding and marketing strategy, we want to put an emphasis on the mission and value, including how working in this field is rewarding and fulfilling. While developing and implementing unique marketing strategies, we want to build networks to easily match job seekers with provided job openings. At times, a requirement for education and the licensure, as well as finding the right job match can seem overwhelming. Therefore, we want information and opportunities to be clear and concise and easy to navigate so that job seekers would be attracted to jobs in mental health field. In addition, as part of overall the retention strategy, we think it would be critical to make work environment comfortable, welcoming, safe, and supportive, and to provide the training, development, and the promotional opportunities to staff, and to include team building and the social events, such as happy hours, breakfast club, and team lunch or dinner, and team picnic, etc. on a regular basis. Finally, we think it would be very important to developing a unique branding and marketing strategy according to mission, value, and the need of your state, which would increase the mental health workforce in your state. That's all I wanted to share with you. Thank you. Let's just take this back to Jim.
Great. Thank you guys very much. Jongbei, Erica, nice job. Our second state spotlight, the second team that's going to talk about their experience and lessons learned. Theo and Dawn from the state of Georgia. I think, Theo, you're going to kick off. Is that right?
That's right.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Theo Carter. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition, Learning, and Development for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities in Georgia. And I'm joined by Dawn, who will introduce herself in a second. Just to kick off, for our key takeaways, when we were thinking of, well, to be honest, a lot of what Erica and Jongbei shared about New York was exactly what we felt. Many times in this business, you feel as if you're alone because you're in the thick of it. You're trying to solve a lot of challenges and figure out answers with limited budgets. And what we were able to do was to have an opportunity to sit down with a lot of partners from across the country and hear that we weren't alone, to listen to their thoughts, their considerations, how they were solving a lot of these problems, and also just know that they're also facing the same challenges and seek solutions. So that kinship was important for us. Also, what was important was recruitment and retaining staff is directly correlated to the workplace environment and culture that we establish. By focusing on wellness and resilience, we are actually building our recruitment effort. We're also supporting, sustaining our retention. One cannot work well without the other. And so it's our responsibility to pay attention to both, especially if we're going to recruit the younger generation. Also, branding was mentioned earlier as well by New York. That really hit home for all of us. In government, it's just not our key focus. We know that the private industry deals a lot more in that. And for us, in the government side, we just feel like we have a service and we provide it. And unfortunately, one of the challenges that we have is, speaking for ourselves on the DBHDD side, that's a lot of an acronym there. We just throw it out. And sometimes our audience and our community doesn't really understand what that means. Recently, I attended a workshop with the commissioner, and leaders from Georgia private industry were invited to talk to us about what could work and what could not work, or what's not working and what could work for us to improve. And they made it very clear during their time with us that our branding was pretty bad and that we have to be much more clear with our audience about what we're providing to them. So we listened a lot to that presentation and that workshop, and we have a lot of work to do on that area. Finally, Don, I'm going to open it up for you to talk about on the 988 side.
Thank you, Theo. Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Peel. I'm the Director for the Office of Crisis Coordination at DBHDD. And as the Crisis Coordinator, one of our big focuses has been 988, leading up to the rollout and then during the first year. And as we think about branding and advertisement, I think it's really important that we consider ways to support our behavioral health recruitment efforts through innovation and leading on some of the momentum created by the launch of 988, especially as we ramp up mass marketing around the country, that we use some of that momentum to get people excited and to welcome them to join our workforce. So I'm going to hand it back to Theo, and I'll be back soon.
So on the application side, what have we been busy with since that last meeting? We mentioned branding, and that has been an early focus of the talent acquisition team for the agency. Our communications team has recently hired quite a few new folks who have a much more fresh and current philosophy on how to present our work to the community through branding and through social media. We've definitely taken advantage of this by connecting with them, sharing ideas and suggestions, and taking in whatever they can present to us on how we can reshape our promotion of job opportunities within the organization. It's helped with the revision of our job posting templates for certain hospital positions. And it's also helping with how we're promoting the organization throughout social media, Facebook, anything like that. We're also investing more time and more funds into updating how we use the leading job recruitment sites. And we're also modernizing our interview and onboarding processes to better serve the applicant, the selected candidate, the hiring manager, and the agency. Good example of this for us right now is we have a job fair planned for next week. We posted the positions through the leading recruitment site yesterday, and we already have 320 people looking to sign up for this job fair, and all of our interviews are already booked. So we're just seeing that investing a little bit more is definitely creating a benefit for us. We've also had conversations with our legislative affairs team, and what we're discussing with them are ways state policies and procedures can be revised to best support recruitment in this modern age. We're looking at work and loan forgiveness, support for continued education, and leniency for those with criminal history and criminal background, how we work around that and bring some people on board with lived experiences. We've also begun to expand our virtual leadership development opportunities within the organization, and we're going to be launching additional programming for our hospital managers and supervisors actually next month, and those will be facilitated by me and a partner of mine. We're also working to refresh our catalog of online professional development courses for staff. Knowing that wellness is directly connected to the training and development of our leaders, we wanted to focus on those areas. What we're also doing is we've recently established a partnership, thanks to our Director of Medical Services, a partnership with a telehealth crisis counseling provider who's going to provide a new option for staff who are feeling stressed or in need of someone to talk to about a personal or professional matter. We're partnering with our Georgia Public Safety Training Center to create a secondary trauma program for agency investigators. So we believe some of these additional programs will help support the wellness of our staff. Certification is very important. And so what we're doing within the organization is we're partnering with our developmental disabilities team to facilitate or bring on board the facilitation of an online direct support professional certification program for providers, provider staff, and agency staff. We're also in communication with the Goodwill and local technical colleges to build programs that could serve as a pipeline to direct service within our hospitals, specifically targeting your high school students and those technical college students, whether in nursing, food service, housekeeping, anything that we can get our hands on. We're looking to build those programs and services. And finally, we're seeking and listening to the advice, recommendations, critiques of providers from our partners, our direct partners, as well as other providers and advocates within the state, private industry leaders, and government agency partners as well. We believe that when we listen to others and we develop that opportunities to listen, to have their concerns heard or their ideas heard, we develop and maintain a fresh perspective that will benefit us in the long run. Even when the input may be a little biting, may be hard to take, it's still going to be important for us to hear that out. Next slide, Jim.
All right, thank you, Theo. I'm going to talk about our next steps now. Give me just a moment here. So as we move forward, pacing and the reality of our public budgets are our key considerations. A review of practices and procedures must lead to us letting go of what's inhibiting our progress and developing procedures that will foster growth. And while thorough assessments and evaluations of our practices and policies are difficult and anxiety-provoking, it's really essential that we do that because we have to stay fresh with the market as we compete with private providers and even a number of other groups when our staff decide to leave the field altogether. Again, as Theo mentioned, we're looking at a job fair for hospitals to hire nurses, and looking at virtual events as well to fill vacancies for nurses. And while Theo's team might have felt a bit uncomfortable about this because it's something they've not done before. They thought it was worth a try. And so we're anxious and excited to see how it works out. One other thing to consider is that, like many states, we've recently been asked to return to full in-office work for many of our administrative staff. And so we're all getting used to being back in person again. So while virtual meetings have been very comfortable during the pandemic, sometimes other virtual events, not so much. So we're making progress, understanding that there's risks, and just extending some patience, grace, and faith for our colleagues. And then as we look towards to advance our policies and practices, compensation is and will continue to be an issue for all job categories, as long as the positions remain at or below our basic livable rates. And as we await state action regarding wages, it's important that we identify other ways to accommodate our staff, such as flexible schedules, loan forgiveness, contract or part-time offerings. And then also, like I said before, just finding ways that we can maximize movement and momentum, such as using things like 988 and creating a jobs portal on our 988 website. We expect that to go live in the near future. So that concludes our comments from Georgia, and I'll turn it over to turn it back to Jim.
Great. Dawn, Theo, thank you very much. All right, final state perspective. Our friends from Washington State, Steve's going to go first. Steve and Kim are going to talk about their takeaways. And I would just add, all three states gave as much as they got. Everybody had great solutions and great strategies they shared. And certainly top of that list was some of the stuff that they're up to in Washington State. So with that, Steve, I will thank you and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jim, and greetings from Washington State. My name is Steve Perry. I'm a Behavioral Health Workforce Development Manager for the Washington State Healthcare Authority. Throughout the SAMHSA Learning Collaborative, we heard from a variety of experts working on a variety of innovative strategies to address workforce shortages. Some of what we learned is that there's no single problem and no single answer will fix it. It'll require targeted investments, payment and policy reforms, new and expanded training programs, and collaboration at all levels with a variety of partners to move the needle on workforce. We learned that recruitment strategies that worked in the past may not work in the future. We've all heard terms like the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle or whatever else you might call it, but today's workforce is looking for more than just a steady job. They're looking for better pay and benefits, work-life balance, a respectful and inclusive workplace culture where they feel valued. They're looking for career advancement and training opportunities, realistic workloads, and better communication from supervisors and leadership. To attract today's workers, organizations may need to look at their recruitment and hiring processes to make sure language in recruitment materials is inclusive. Focus on skills and competencies and not just education. Emphasize values and cultures that'll resonate with prospective workers. Make sure your hiring process promotes diversity and reduces the likelihood of implicit bias influencing hiring decisions. Make sure that your hiring and interview teams reflect the diversity of your communities. Multi-state collaboration. Washington really appreciated the opportunity to work with and learn from our colleagues in other states and thank them for the open and honest dialogue, for sharing their successes and their challenges. We believe learning collaboratives provide valuable opportunities to learn from efforts, investments, and lessons learned in other states, and we think they should be ongoing. When considering workforce solutions, remember to choose strategies that are or will be supported by agency leadership, state legislators, community partners, and the people of your state. Whether you're working on recruitment, retention, licensing reforms, pathway projects, rate hikes, reciprocity agreements and compacts, or something else, you need to understand the political climate and social values of the people in your state in order to identify strategies that'll be supported. In other words, you'll need help. Work with providers, professional associations, education partners, sister agencies, state and local workforce boards, and quite frankly, anyone else who cares enough to lean into workforce solutions. Finally, solutions take time. Addressing workforce shortages is not a short-term game. It can take years to create new pipelines, reform licensing regulations, reduce administrative burdens, or increase Medicaid rates. So if at first you don't succeed, build or join a coalition of folks who have similar interests and who are willing to help carry the load. And then try again, and again, and again. Like many of the presenters in the Learning Collaborative and all of you here today, Washington has been working to address workforce shortages for years. Over the past 3 years, we've made some progress. We've increased Medicaid rates by 24%. We distributed $130 million in provider relief funds targeted at workforce. We passed legislation to streamline and simplify licensing requirements and to align licensing requirements across master's level profession. We passed legislation this past year that will require all licensed providers to report demographic and practice setting data at the time of licensing and renewal. We developed 3 behavioral health apprenticeship programs to increase our workforce and increase access to education and job training for marginalized communities. We launched a behavioral health careers campaign to increase awareness of and interest in behavioral health careers. Check it out at www.startyourpath.org. We made significant investments to grow our peer workforce and provide them with more and better training. And the list goes on. One of the keys to Washington's recent successes is that over the past several years, Washington stakeholder groups have become more informed, more organized, more aligned, and more inconsistent in their messaging to legislators. And we still have a lot of work to do because there's no single problem and no single solution. And solutions take time. So slide, please, and I'll turn it over to my brilliant colleague, Kim.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Steve, and thank you all. Thank you for having me. Kimberly Wright, I'm the Behavioral Health Operations and Planning Supervisor for the Department of Behavioral Health and Recovery in Washington State at our Healthcare Authority. Like all states represented in the Learning Collaborative, Washington chose a stretch goal to work on because Washington already has so many efforts, as Steve just mentioned, underway to support and enhance workforce. We identified it was very important to ensure that we were approaching those cohesively and we were aligned in our priorities. So for that, Washington's stretch goal is to embed a workforce lens in our work, in all of our work, through securing leadership buy-in and alignment on priorities and strategies, a workforce strategic plan. Our approach, though, included developing an initial list of workforce-related priorities with strategies that Washington has already started or was creating plans to implement. And we want further development within each priority. Washington is seeking diverse collaboration as we work on compiling the strategic plan to ensure that this document is supported by our state leadership and serves as a guiding lens. Our intent is that the strategic plan serve as that guiding document for decisions related to workforce efforts and allocation of available funding to support workforce priorities in the most complete way possible. Washington's goal is that these priorities will serve, again, as a lens for us to look across our agency and our state at the behavioral health workforce workflows and funding opportunities to embed this workforce priorities in other work streams, like contracts and procurements, legislative analysis, and retention efforts, reporting, etc. These are stretch goals for a reason, and Washington has developed the initial list of priorities and strategies. We're excited as we begin the collaborative work towards a comprehensive plan for these workforce efforts. And as Steve said, solutions take time. There's no single problem and no single solution. So the strategies must be system-wide changes, requiring a collaborative effort with all parties at the table working towards this. Washington appreciated the opportunity to participate with the other states in this important learning collaborative and to share what we have learned and how we have begun to implement a new lens in our approach. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jen.
Kim, and Steve. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the State Spotlight people for today, but as Matthew said, for all you've contributed. We really, the success of this thing really was contingent on so many people rolling up their sleeves and being generous about what they were sharing. Folks who are on the webinar, if you're not in the chat, Steve referenced a website, and we did post that in the chat. If you're curious to follow that link, go ahead and grab that hyperlink or copy it when you're ready. Dr. Jessie Bokey joins us. She was, has been part of these, several of these, is a national leader in workforce issues, smart and generous and fun. It's been a pleasure. She's agreed to step up and sort of wrap up the formal presentation before we go to Q&A, kind of talk about what innovative things they're up to at University of Nebraska, but also to take a look at the landscape more broadly, kind of talk about what's up and coming we should all be paying attention to. So Jessie, thanks again and welcome.
Thank you. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm Jessie Bokey. I'm on the leadership team at the Behavioral Health Education Center of Nebraska, which is hosted at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. I primarily champion the American Rescue Plan Act program at Beacon, and then work with a couple of other folks in the leadership team around relationship development, networking, collaboration, and strategic planning. Like Jim said, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the efforts that Beacon has implemented to build workforce capacity in the state, and some additional steps that we can take to expand the workforce in rural areas, which I think is not a unique thing to Nebraska. It's pretty pervasive across the country. Next slide, please. So for those who aren't familiar, the Behavioral Health Education Center of Nebraska, or Beacon, is a entity that is state funded at about $5 million per year in the state of Nebraska to develop, grow, train, recruit, and retain the behavioral health workforce. Like I said, we're housed at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, and we have a really wide network of educational institutions and training and healthcare sites. We have 4 main pillars. That's collecting behavioral health workforce data and enumerating the behavioral health workforce, recruiting, educating, and mentoring students, training, retaining, and building resilience among professionals. And then we have a really large sum of money that came to us from the American Rescue Plan Act of $25.5 million. That's the program that I direct, and that is and that entire pool is open to any organization in Nebraska to grow and expand the workforce. Next slide, please. So one of the unique things about Nebraska is that the majority of the population is centered on the eastern side of the state in the Omaha and Lincoln regions, and the remaining counties in the state, 87 out of 93 of them are HRSA designated health professional shortage areas. And so we have, like many other states, a really pervasive problem with recruiting and retaining the workforce in rural areas. We have 6 behavioral health regions in our state, and so we have 6 Beacon rural site centers across the state. These are located in Chadron in the Panhandle. We have a really strong partnership with the University of Nebraska Kearney, and then in our Beacon Central, and then our Beacon Northeast and Beacon Southwest and Beacon Southeast areas. We recently, in the last month, opened our Beacon Northeast at Wayne College in Nebraska, and so we are next working on building Beacon Southwest. And with these regional hubs in our rural site development centers, we have a lot of our training and practicum experiences with different health centers, and we have a lot of relationships built with colleges and universities in these other areas of the state to help build and retain and recruit the workforce. In like other states, you know, we have unique issues and unique problems that need unique solutions in each of these regions. And so that's another chief aim of having these rural site centers. And we heard from Dr. Tina Chasik from University of Nebraska Omaha, and she is actually on faculty and the dean of the counseling department at UNO, but also our director of rural site development at Beacon as well. Next slide, please. So one of the chief reasons that we develop these rural site centers, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the key programs that we have going on at these rural site centers and throughout the state of Nebraska, was because of this chart you'll see here. We've been collecting our enumeration data on the behavioral health workforce in Nebraska for well over 10 years. We're about to publish our data from the most previous 3 years. But as you can see, we've seen a lot of growth in the behavioral health workforce overall, especially in our limited license professionals achieving full licensure. But what this chart doesn't show is that we aren't seeing the growth in rural areas, and we didn't over those past 10 years, despite having a budget line of $2.5 million dedicated to behavioral health workforce development in Nebraska. And we saw a lot of these providers congregating in urban areas, which I think is something that happens across the country. And so over the past year, we have made a lot of progress in building programs specific to retaining and training rural providers. Next slide, please. The first program that I'm going to talk to you about at Beacon is our brand new Beacon Behavioral Health Opportunities Program, or BHOP. The pilot program is starting at the end of this month, and it's modeled after our Beacon KHOP, which is a collaboration between UNMC and University of Nebraska at Kearney, where they train rural medical providers from UNMC College of Medicine to go to UNK and to have residency and different rotation placements in rural areas in central Nebraska. We are doing something similar, but with behavioral health providers. This is going to be aimed at graduate students at UNK's psychology department. Juniors will be able to apply for this program. The first pilot year will have 9 to 12 students who are able to enroll in the program, and they'll have their senior year of tuition covered, and then receive 25% of their tuition covered for their first 3 years of graduate school in the clinical counseling program at UNK. And all of their internship and practicum experiences will be in rural, central, and southwest Nebraska. They'll also be able to have stipends of up to $500 per semester for different workforce development opportunities like conferences or other educational experiences outside of their curriculum, like being trained in mental health first aid and things like that. Next slide, please. The next program, also launching, I think in just about a week, is our Rural and Underserved Trainees Program. And this is comes kind of off of the heels of the Beacon ARPA program, which I'll go into just a little bit of detail in a minute, and the really high need that we saw in our training opportunities category for funding for these more diverse training experience for our clinical level behavioral health providers. The first year that launches in a week or so is going to take 15 students in applied behavior analysis, marriage and family therapy, social work, and clinical counseling. So our licensed level providers, and these will be for graduate students to pay their tuition and their training experiences in rural Nebraska, and they have to commit to staying in rural Nebraska and serving underserved populations as well. Next slide, please. Our next concerted effort towards retaining and recruiting a rural behavioral health providers is our careers app. So Beacon will be launching in late November their careers app, which is free to any behavioral health undergraduate or graduate student, early career behavioral health providers, and then mid to senior career behavioral health providers as well. And it is aimed at connecting early career professionals with information, online training, free education from Beacon, and behavioral health mentors across the state, kind of regardless of their geographic location. Next slide, please. And then we also have, kind of in partnership with that app, our Beacon mentorship program, which provides guidance to our undergraduate and graduate level students that are seeking licensure in Nebraska. And it pairs these students with currently licensed and practicing mentors throughout the state. There are monthly gatherings, both virtual and in person, in some of our rural site areas that I mentioned earlier, to help students, to help early career professionals build those skills in networking, and to help providers and established practices promote their organization, promote their practice, and to help with their recruitment of early career professionals as well. Next slide, please. And then finally, I'll talk to you a little bit about our Beacon Awards program. Like I said, last summer, we were awarded $25.5 million of ARPA funding. And through a competitive application process, we distributed this funding to 110 awardees in these four main categories that you see here on the left side of this table. We had a really concerted effort to distribute these funds to as many rural organizations as we did urban organizations. And you'll see I did push in the very end when we were deciding on our final round and our final organizations that we were going to fund to have them be rural, but predominantly just based on application status alone and scoring from our review committee, we really did get a pretty equal distribution of rural and urban awardees. And also with the caveat that all the applications in the telebehavioral health category had to have a rural component. So even if they were located in an urban center, they had to have a rural component to their project. So well over $10 million going towards building the rural behavioral health workforce in Nebraska. Next slide, please. I'll cover a little bit about what some of those projects look like in terms of our funding and our efforts going towards building the rural workforce in Nebraska. In the telebehavioral health category, which I said had to be a real focus no matter where the award went to. We had 19 awards to support the expansion or the creation or building of telehealth infrastructure throughout the state. We had a couple of organizations that are making an attempt at building a somewhat of a statewide network through FQHCs. We have Bannister's Leadership Academy, which is working to build a network of behavioral health providers to serve school-age children via telehealth throughout the state. Likewise with Children's Hospital, a telehealth network for serving children throughout the state. And then a regional network created by Evaluations by EC is a telehealth network for substance use disorder consultations for the incarcerated population in the Panhandle in Western Nebraska. So some really, really great things coming out of this telehealth pool of funding. Next slide, please. Our next really I think probably going to be one of our most impactful pools of funding towards building the behavioral health workforce and moving our limited license behavioral health providers to full licensure is this supervision of provisionally licensed providers category, which received 22 awards to support this. A couple of really cool projects that I wanted to highlight around rural workforce development is Options in Psychology, which is located out in Scotts Bluff, in that they had spent 3 years without being able to recruit a psychology resident out in the Panhandle, and finally with some recruitment bonuses for those residents, and with funding for supervision, they were able to get 3 psychology residences filled for this fall, and so that's something they haven't seen in a really long time. And then in Sarah's house, they are funding the supervision of provisionally licensed providers who are solely focused on substance use disorder in the Panhandle in Western Nebraska as well. Next slide. And lastly, I'll talk about our category called COVID-19, which is where we had 31 awards, and namely towards recruitment, retention, and resiliency building among the workforce. UNK is developing an ambassador program for both undergraduate and graduate students. Scottsbluff Public Schools is hosting is using their funds to recruit behavioral health providers into their public schools. And AM Counseling and Consulting, which I think is doing some really fantastic work, is using some of their funding for recruitment and retention of Latinx providers in rural Nebraska, which is a really great need in our state. So seeing a lot of those dollars going towards really impactful recruitment and retention efforts. Next slide, please. So to summarize all of this, I kind of really wanted to talk about the fact that most of these, if not all of the programs, are in pilot phases. And I think that's a really important point to bring up, because throughout my career in behavioral health workforce research, I know there's such a dearth of information or established best practices out there. I've been charged by HRSA or HHS on multiple occasions to find those best practices, and what we realized is that none of them had been evaluated, or none of them in order for us to even recommend a best practice. And so I see a lot of these like really great ideas out here shared today, and I'm jotting things down and hoping to make future connections. But one effort that we're undertaking at Beacon is to make sure that we're evaluating all of these programs and collecting really meaningful and impactful data, not only on the programs themselves, but as on the collaborations and the networks they build. And so maybe that that piece that might not be so tangible, but is perhaps the most important thing, and that we plan in the next 3 to 5 years to be sharing a lot of these evaluations of these programs, especially these ARPA programs, broadly with the field, and so that hopefully together we can replicate them in other states and actually establish these benchmarks. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Jesse.
That is fantastic. Matthew, I'm sorry, I was going to just thank Jesse and turn it back to you to hit up our Q&A.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you all of our presenters. What a wonderful afternoon. And as we segue into the question and answers segment of the presentation, I just want to send a reminder that if you have not already done so, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature located at the bottom center of your screen. Our first question: how do we address competition between providers when it comes to retaining and recruiting qualified staff? So a question for our presenters: how do we address competition between providers when it comes to retaining and recruiting qualified staff?
Matt, I can jump on that. That's from Georgia's perspective. I see Steve too. But one thing that we've started to do recently is we're working with our development disability side and the providers. We're actually in communication with them as a group when it comes to certification opportunities that we can help to support, not only for our staff internally within the organization, but also for them as providers. And then also we went ahead and made some purchases when it comes to LMS courses to help support them. And we cover that and manage the program, the LMS for them. And so, and also when it comes to our website, what we're looking to do is include job opportunities for providers just as much as we are for us. So just involving them and communicating with them is what we're doing on the Georgia side.
All right, our next question. Can the speakers talk about any models for recovery-friendly workplaces and any outcome measures that speak to its efficacy?
Yeah, Matthew, I can speak a little bit from experience, but not from an academic or measurement-based perspective. We have a pretty robust peer program here in Washington State. We not only provide training and certification of the peer workforce, recovery navigators, and so on, but we provide training to supervisors, to their supervisors, to agencies for onboarding and supporting and integrating peers within their organization. And so that is a recovery-based sort of culture that grows from those training opportunities and learning. We also host 1 hour sessions monthly for peers themselves to connect, for supervisors to connect, and for agencies who want to either implement or improve their peer services. And what we tend to see from those organizations is that there's a culture change that helps to retain staff in those organizations and elevate appreciation of lived experience and how folks with that experience can contribute to the work.
Thank you, Steve. Our next question. Are there any strategies for addressing salary compression? Salary compression refers to when an employee who may have, be in that position for a long time, that person may make the same or less than a new hire in that same position. So any strategies for addressing salary compression?
Again, not an expert in this area, but it's almost universal across the field. I mean, in Washington, at least, frontline behavioral health workers are competing with service industry jobs for wages, and those industries don't require 4 to 6 years of education, 2 or more years of on-the-job training and supervision to get to. And what I would say is that really the only answer that I'm aware of is that we need more people in the field. And when the job market begins to tighten, turns more to an employer market than a job seeker market, we tend to have less movement across industries. So let's get more people in the field.
I've seen several folks not in agreement. Thank you, Steve. All right, our next question. Can the speakers address any best practices on meeting the surge in disaster behavioral health needs?
We're working on that. That's such a great question. We're working on that in New York, and we're looking at a county approach to build teams based in communities. So for each county we have in New York, for each county we have mental health leadership there that has contacts with their providers, and we're looking to see people that are interested in joining a team of disaster mental health responders, and we have some funding where we can train them. So it's first getting out there and building relationships with those community members to engage them, and then see if they want to kind of join our team so we can coordinate it, know who is available in any part of our state if an emergency happens, like a tragedy or a weather-related disaster happens, that we know who the people are that are trained in that area and can deploy them. But this exact topic has come up and again as I plan this with our disaster mental health team here in New York, when we say, hey, while you're out there, while you're engaging these folks in each community, We also should have materials available around system literacy, around what are all the programs available for treatment, recovery, community-based supports, and what are some of the job opportunities? Because it's like all of this kind of like ties together in building up the resources and availability and access to support in our state. So I think that's such a great question. We're trying to do that by building relationships and offering training and coordination of our disaster mental health teams.
Thank you, Erica. And I think that's a really good segue to our next question. What role does community capacity building and developing community partnerships have when it comes to workforce recruitment?
I just think about that relationship building at the local level when you're tying together, teachers and educators and community members that are trying to teach, like maybe young people coming up into the field and they're picking their career, and being able to make that bridge between our provider organizations who need new people. And especially if you're looking like we want people to stay in our state, and maybe stay in their local communities even that they know, whether they went to school there or grew up there, but really fostering those relationships. So I think one mechanism is just like internships. And sometimes people like have it and they can do it. They just need someone to help coordinate it, if that makes sense.
Matt, if I can add to that, we do a lot of education in Georgia of the communities. We use UPR, like question, persuade, refer, mental health first aid, because what we find is that if we have a better educated community, then oftentimes they can help people before they need treatment, and then it takes kind of the impact off the treatment system as well.
And also building relationship with the community is very important, and to expand the networkings in the community. Because the doctor and mentioned that in the Nebraska is the hearing ambassador programs, they all ambassador can be ambassador, and I can call it ambassador marketing, and the word to word they can just share what kind of programs available, what kind of jobs available, so how fancy it is in the field. So we can just send this message to the community to do that.
Thank you, Zhongbei. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Erica. Our next question. Aside from compensation, what other factors should providers consider when recruiting and retaining staff?
I think about Zhongbei touched on this a little bit, like how, what drew all of us to the field. Like there's a lot of mission-driven things that bring us to this field. So really kind of sharing with people the impact. And I think in opportunities for development, like what new trainings do you want to do? What meetings can I pull this person on? I'm in a leadership role. I'm a supervisor, and I've got my team here. How can I make them feel like the work that they do every day is part of the greater mission? I think is one strategy. And one of the candidates for our workforce unit director thought of this idea that I thought was great. She's like, there's little things you can do that add up to making someone feel very valued, even if you don't have the budget you wish you had to be able to pay them more. Acknowledging their work and being grateful for their work. And then even acknowledging them as a staff member. She said, I make sure people have their name on their office or their cubicle or their desk. They have a name tag. They have business cards. Like, you're part of this team, and you're part of the team meeting. And I want you to share with the team what accomplishes you made this week. Like all these little bits of like development and feeling involved and part of the team and valued.
I'm seeing a lot of nods. That's a really good point, Erica. Before our next question, I think sometimes when it comes to workforce recruitment or strategy in general, we try to always look at that big idea, right? But Instead, if we really focus on the little things we do every day, over time, they really add up. So I really appreciate that strategy. Our next question. Theo mentioned the notion of recruiting the next generation. What should providers consider when it comes to recruiting the next generation of workforce professionals? And I don't think that question is necessarily meant specifically for Theo. But again, what should providers consider when it comes to recruiting the next generation of workforce professionals?
One thing that we're doing is taking a closer look at the technology that we are having available within our sites, and partnering with our providers to make certain that they can do as best as they can. We all understand it costs money, but just making certain that there are certain technological advances that they have present on the at their location. The next piece is, like Erica was saying, really the next generation, the younger generation right now doesn't see the world as big. It's much more connected, and they want to be connected to a mission that means something. Dollars are important, and so we have to make certain that we're meeting the livable wage. However, what's most important to this generation is feeling as if my work or the time that I'm going to invest in this actually will mean something. So talking about that meaning, being much more clear on everything that we're doing and how it relates to the community, how it supports us as managers, as well as them as their colleagues and the community. And then also sharing opportunities. So as much as possible, giving them opportunities to learn and grow. So when someone comes on board, here's the next level that you can get to, and here's what we suggest or what we'll be working on to get to that next level. And making it seem as if it's attainable rather than putting time on it. I think one thing that we tend to do is say, well, after 5 years, you can be this, or after 10 years, you can be this. And no one's going to stick around for 5 years anymore. So I think also just realizing that in a lot of ways, we're going to be building someone up to possibly move on in their career. And that's what they want to see. And it could be elsewhere. So we have to kind of go think beyond the mindset of someone's going to come in and be here for 20 or 30 years and retire. Can't think that way anymore. We have to think of this younger generation as investing a lot of time and doing as much as we can possibly with them and hoping that they will stay longer if we provide the support they need.
And the money is not all about, and many younger generation around me, they wanted to go to medical school, but stop going to medical school. They want to go to becoming dentist because of the 9-to-5 life. And so the younger generation more focused, not the money, and more focused on the work life balance with work life and then personal life. So we need to focus on this. The quality of life is very important part of the younger generation.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, please submit them using the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. Our last question for now, Erica, can you speak more about the fellowship you mentioned? What's the purpose and overall goal you hope to accomplish?
So it's really in a proposal stage right now. So I'm hoping it will all work out. We had kind of a model in New York that seemed to work really well, and it was during COVID. Our New York State Department of Health needed more people from the public health sector to help with some of the COVID activities. So they did a really quick fellowship program that I think if we could do something like that, we'll follow a similar model. So I'll just speak to that model and why we loved it so much for mental health. So this was done for public health and that kind of thing. So using a similar model for mental health, they had regionally based coordinators who developed relationships with schools and different levels of schooling. So high school, community college, maybe trade programs, community colleges, and then colleges and universities. And I think we could even do graduate school too. And then put them in a track a fellowship track that would lead to a job match. So and if we had funding for something like this, like maybe would the state maybe pay for some of their work hours building up and then match them? Or is it more like a paid type thing through the agency that needs workers anyway, and we're just helping with the matching? So there's a couple of different pieces we still have to figure out, but I think the key is offering our students different pathways and job matching based on different levels of education and experience. And then that's going to tie into the work that we're doing on this idea of a paraprofessional. And I think other states have made more progress on it, and we're trying to catch up. But like in mental health, a paraprofessional is someone who has maybe a high school degree and really good experience with people, connecting with people, that could do the different jobs that aren't necessarily prescribing or psychotherapy, but they're doing some of the other roles that are so critical in our workforce that kind of like keeps the whole workforce up and keeps access up. So that fellowship, I think we really want to create those channels and pathways for people of all different levels, and then have a consolidated way to know what are all those jobs. That feels like a harder part too, like knowing what are all the job opportunities. Because if you're a community provider, where do you post your jobs? Like Indeed or any like job posting site, but how do we, they don't have to post through our centralized, and I think Nebraska, it sounded like did some of this, like we don't have to have you post through our location, but if we at least know what all those links are in a central location, we could send our students to that place as part of the process. The other cool thing about the fellowship that they did with public health was there was also a sponsor, I think it was, I want to say it was Cornell University. So they also got like some type of certificate with it. There was networking that was part of it. And you had like this Cornell University, like this really established academic part of it that also kind of, I think, was enticing for the participants.
Very good. Thank you, Erica. Great. Seeing no other questions, we will now turn to the final slides for this afternoon. Reminder for states. We are so fortunate. You heard from Thiessen earlier. Just so fortunate to have strong SAMHSA leadership. Thiessen, Eric, Doug, Michelle, Azeb. We've made available to states who are interested or who need support through technical assistance or other resources. We made a way for states to connect to learn more about that TA. You can do so by emailing SAMHSA State TA at jbsinternational.com. We also have a website under that State TA resources. And a reminder that in addition to the recording, the PowerPoint slides will be sent out. We want to encourage you to check out that State TA resources page located on your screen. Next slide. And lastly, we want to thank everyone for taking the time to be here today. Again, a big thank you to our State Spotlight presenters, to Jim, and we want to ask that each of you complete the evaluation shown on your screen. You can do so by using your smartphone to capture that QR code, or if you want to click on the link that is available in the chats, or if you want to type the link shown on your screen into your web address, you can do that as well. Reminder that when the webinar ends, the evaluation will still be open. So we want to definitely challenge you to participate in the evaluation. With that said, we just want to, again, thank you for everyone for taking the time to be here. Thank you, SAMHSA. Thank you, State Spotlight presenters. And again, if anyone has any questions, please be quick to reach out at SAMHSA State TA at jbsinternational.com. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.